Hello and welcome to episode number 8 of Import Tutorial. This episode is about sprite sheets and sprite frame animations. So we're going to learn how to import a sprite sheet, which is a massive image file that contains a lot of sub-sprites. We're going to learn how to import that into our project and use that to create our CCSprites from frames that we predefine. So before we get into this episode, actually there is a zip file that I want you to download within the thread accompanying this episode. So I want you to go download that, or well, pause the video, go download that and come back to me. Okay, assuming you've done that, when you've extracted that zip file, there is 3 files within it. We have our animation character sheet plist, which I'll get into in a minute, and we have 2 character sheets. We have character sheet underscore ref and character sheet underscore character sheet underscore source. Excuse me. So the difference for them is, here's the character sheet we're working with here. I've just taken this there, kind of just RPG characters I found through Google. I'm sorry I cannot credit you, but I believe they're just actually ripped from RPG Maker VX8 or whatever it's called. But the 2 sheets here, one sheet has a kind of framed background, which I've just kind of messed around with here in Photoshop here. And the sheet we're going to be actually working with within our project just has a transparent background. So what I want you to do is to import the character sheet source into your project underneath the resource folder, and make sure it's, as I said, it's the source one with the transparent background. I want you to then go in and select your animation character sheet and bring that in underneath, ideally somewhere for your source. Bring it in maybe underneath the, where can we put it? Let's see, just put it at the top here. And you can see our animation underscore character sheet plist is in. So okay, that's already in, and I'll just go back to our project now, and you can see I've kind of just divided off our code. I've organized it a bit better. I've used the kind of hashtag program mark and did the little dash to create a horizontal line and then a title. So you can see I've just sectioned off code basically, so I have like the create and destroy, sound effect and test methods. So I've changed up our draw scene, and instead of drawing the car, which I was doing in the last week's episode, I've just commented that out, and I'm now drawing an RPG character. So if I use the drop down menu here and just jump to RPG character, now don't worry, I'm going to explain all this in a minute here. But what should happen is if I run this, I hope it doesn't crash here, you can see I've loaded in a character. So if we go back into Photoshop here, I'm actually loading this little dude down here from our sprite sheet. So if I zoom out, you can see the size of it here. So I'm going to explain how that works, but first of all, the really important part is our plist file. So once you've dragged that in, you'll see I've created just 1 frame. So you can see, sorry, excuse me, I should explain what it is. So you can see it's broken off here into kind of 2 sections of frames and metadata. So if we go into the frames here, I literally have just called, you can name it whatever you want. I've just called it dude underscore still. And if you bring that, drop that down, you'll see that it has a frame, it has an offset, it has rotate, and a source color rect, and it has the source size. Now I'll go into that in just 2 minutes here. So this is literally defining where we are drawing the, like where do we want to load from within that sprite sheet. And I'll go into that in 2 seconds. I just want to go into the metadata first. So the metadata for the real, you can see here that the format just has 2, ignore that for now. For the real texture file name, make sure you're putting in the actual file name of the resource. So it's the character sheet underscore source. The size of the image, so if we just go into Photoshop here, like press Command Alt and I, you can see the pixel dimensions are 384 of the width and 384 by the height. Again, you can select the whole image here, and you can see it says down there 384 and 384. So if we go over, that's the size of our image. So the first is the X, the second is the Y. Exact same as through all of our code. For example, for position concept, the first is always the X, second Y. So size 384 and comma 384. Ignore this smart update for now. We don't need to worry about it at all. And texture file name, again, just make sure it's the exact same, which is character sheet underscore source. Okay. So now we've defined our frame. So the frame here, you can see it has these 2 kind of parameters set in, again, X, Y, X, Y. So this actually here is the reference of the start point of the frame. Now, the anchor point here, so remember we've talked about anchor points in the past and used for drawing a point. The anchor point here is always the top left of the frame. So always the top left of the frame. So we can see here, sorry, I have 128 and comma 192. So if I use my selection tool again, just select over here, make sure it's the square one, and we drag from the top left of the image and drag down. So we go to 128, which is over here, and 192, you can see I'm getting the top left corner. It's not exactly, I don't have it exactly bang on there, it is there. I'm getting the top left corner of this frame here. That's, if I zoom right in, that's this guy here. We want him drawn, which you've seen in the project. Okay. This next parameter is the size of the frame, which is 32 by 48. So again, the reason why I've included the frames here is you can actually just click and drag. You can see each frame. You can see that their width is 32 and the height is 38. So put that in here. You don't need to, well, it's already there for you now, so we don't need to worry about for this sprite sheet. But if you're using other sprite sheets, again, you just change for the frame size, make sure you just change there. So there's your starting point of the frame and then your frame size here. And use the exact same again for the source color rect. Leave the first part as 0, 0, always 0, 0, and just put the frame size again, and the source size, the frame size again. Okay, so you want this exact layout for your frames. Okay, how do we use other frames? So we've got an RPG character. We want, you saw him, I've drawn him on the scene, and I'll go into the scene in a minute. I'm going to show you how to first of all load up other frames. So let's say we wanted 2 walking frames. There's one on either side of the walking frame here. So we already know from the Y value of this guy, if I just kind of zoom out here, I want you to create this method here. I want you to basically copy and paste what you see. Now I'm going to scroll through the code, of course. That's literally right there. What you're seeing there is the full method. So of course there's just the method name, and there I've got to cut off. So what you're seeing here is the full method. If you want, pause the video and try copying this code, but I'm going to explain it first and ideally list it. You can see what's going on here. So we're drawing a character. I put in the comments, just drawing a character to the scene using a sprite frame of a sprite sheet. Okay, so we've declared our sprite same data. We'll try loading the same file, even though maybe you're using a different animation and you actually specify you want to use a different texture. It will still load in the one that was saved in memory. So it's always good practice to purge the texture cache. What I want you to do is copy this in. So literally all it is you're just doing a square bracket CC sprite frame cache, and all you're doing, cache. And then do purge, and you just press keep tab it through, and that's as simple as that. I just have a comment through, so it looks a bit more complicated, it's a bit more lines, but that's simple. And I want you to do that, so what I want you to do is select it, copy and paste it, and you're going to work within that. So you can see there's a second one here, and that's at the end. Okay, so let's get into this. So I have cache, assuming you're using the same frames or whatever, like, or even if, for example, I have frames that are animations that I've literally just called frame 1, frame 2, frame 3 or whatever, like that type of thing. So if you use Xcode, you can actually, and use your arrow keys, you can see it highlights the square bracket it's closing, which is the second one there. Then do a space, add sprite frames with file, and you want to load in the exact name of your animation plist. So the animation underscore character sheet 01 dot plist texture, and do a space after. So once you've done the string, so again it's a string, do a space texture and put in the correct texture. So put that in as a texture. Okay, so again you can pause the video now, you can break it up. Okay, so we're not using animation right now, so I'll come back to that now in 2 seconds. So we've created, so all we're doing is creating a sprite. So ignore this for here, right? Ignore these 2 lines for now. Okay, so we're going to create the sprite itself. So CCSprite, I have it as underscore sprite base. I'm going to just remove that name as sprite base. I'm just going to classify. I don't know why I put the underscore in. We've loaded directly as from a file name from resource. We're changing it up, and again it's sprite with sprite frame, and we're doing the exact same thing again. Sprite frame cache. Sprite frame anchor point is just relative to the actual sprite itself. So if I had 0, 0, I was drawing it at the kind of lower left hand corner. So the position, we're going to position them onto the background. We're going to add them to the back one. So again, we're just positioning center screen. Now here's something different here. We're changing the text do.texture set anti-alias to no. So you can Google what anti-alias means, but anti-alias, because I've not used the animation. For where we've added the sprite frame, I want you to Command C, highlight, Command C, Command V, Command V. So copy and paste it basically, and change it to walking 01, walking 02. Okay, so the animation's there. So now we're going to create the